Live and welcome to Behind the Markets. It is Monday edition, Mindset Monday, where we do go through how to get your mind oriented for the week. Welcome to everybody on our Behind the Markets conversation, where we are breaking down the 8 o'clock thoughts, or just the after 8 o'clock thoughts on the mindset story. And Stephanie, we are finally wrapping up our Power to Change series. But before I get into that, Stephanie, how are you doing?
I'm fine, Munyumba. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And welcome to all of our audience. If you're watching us live, please give us a shout, tag your friends, tell your mother, tell your brother, tell them everybody that it is time to get a little bit of the dose of what to do with our minds correct. It is the 9th of October. We are in the middle of the second of the final quarter. There are 3 months remaining to the year. Stephanie, do you know, statistically speaking, October is the most productive month of the year? It's actually where people get the most done because the fear of the year ending, all your bonuses, your targets, everything are right in front of you, and you realize you've done nothing. So you start to really,
Mm.
really, really push in the ladder and push in everything you can. How has is I don't know if that's your experience of October, whether this is the month where you start running the fastest because you realize how slow you've been jogging for the rest of the years, for the previous months of the year.
Yeah, for me, October, Mumbai, it's that month where, of course, I'm thinking about restructuring. I think I've been deliberate in trying to give myself permission. And when I talk about permission, really, I'm talking about permission to restart, permission to do what I think I can do better, permission to look at what I didn't achieve nicely, and just get past it without having to feel bad about it. So that's pretty much what October means to me. And also, it means that come next year, I should be able to do better than now.
So today we're going to be talking about the 4 laws of reaping and sowing. Okay, that's actually what we're going to be talking about today. It's the final part of Craig Rochelle book, Power to Change. We've been doing it for the majority of this year. We've been going through the Power to Change book, where we've been talking about laws of reaping and sowing. We've talked about discipline and so many other things today. That is going to be the main conversation of our Mindset Monday, the 4 laws of reaping and sowing. And remember that in our definition, we've always remembered that desire is longing, hoping, and wishing and expressing for something, while power is the ability to affect or influence a desired outcome. So, power is the ability to finally execute what you've been desiring to do, but desire is the wish and hope and the expression in your heart that you want something. Oh, I want to get there. Oh, I want to be wealthy. Oh, I want. Power is making sure it comes to life. So we're talking about the power to change. And in the mindset of all of this, we've been talking about identity, not behavior, that a person who has the power to change changes their identity and then their behavior flows. They don't try, they train. They don't hope, they execute habits. Now, here it's they sow, they don't focus on reaping. They don't exercise all their energy. They sow and trust processes, and then they are able to reap naturally. So there are 4 laws of sowing and reaping, which we're going to go through today. Usually we go through one of these things, but today we're going to go through all 4. And they are: you reap what you sow, you reap consistently what you sow consistently, you reap what you sow, you reap after you sow, and you reap more than you sow. Okay, that's something that we want to keep in our minds. You reap what you sow, after you sow, more than you sow, and you reap consistently what you sow consistently. And no matter how many times you try and blame the government for it and the environment and all sorts of things, the majority of what comes out of your life is a result of your seed. Whatever you are planting into the ground and whatever you are doing is mostly going to control whatever comes out of your life, because it's the consistent actions that you do that end up compounding on each other that result in this. Stephanie, there's an old saying that comes out. It says, when you are born, you look like your parents, and when you die, you look like your habits. That's I think I saw Priscilla Shear actually say that in one of her sermons. But I think it's an old saying that when you are born, I'll repeat that. When you are born, you look like your parents, but when you die, you look like your habits. So the things you do consistently are going to determine the outcome of what you look like later on in your life. In fact, Pastor Craig Rochelle
Mm.
broke down something called You in 10 Years. He says, how can you tell what you will look like or what your life will look like in 10 years? And here's what he broke down. He said, habits are the leading indicator to your life. Imagine if you met a superstar, you meet a superstar. Imagine if you met superstars 10 years before. Your habits indicate where you will be in 10 years. The mistake most people make is that they look at people now and they don't ask the question. I remember Dumisani Ngumbe was being interviewed about this, and there was a guy who walked up to him and said, Dumi, I'm going to be where you are in 5 years' time. I'm going to be where you are. And Dumisani looked at him and he said, no, you won't. And he said, the reason is you are not doing now what I was doing 5 years ago. That's the reason why you won't be where I am in 5 years. You're trying to catch up with me. You are not doing now what I was doing 5 years ago. So the question is, if you want to be a superstar, any superstar that you meet, are you doing what they were doing 10 years ago for you to get where they are now? It's a strong indicator. You can't just replicate it, but it's a strong indicator as to where you will probably be. We all have the best intentions, but intentions do not determine direction. Repeated actions do. You can intend, Stephanie, to go somewhere, but if there's no sorry about that. We are hearing a bit of a buzzing sound. Thank you. And we'll just have to mute. Yeah, so you can intend, Stephanie, to go to work, but if there's no action of putting one foot in front of the other, or if there's no action of a wheel turning in a car, you are not going anywhere. You can sit in your house and say, I wish I was at work. I wish I was at work. I wish I was at work. Guess where you'll be after you finish saying that? In your living room. That is exactly where you'll be, in your bedroom or in your living room. So you can only get somewhere by actually taking a repeated incremental action step by step. So you can intend to do something, but intention means zip, zilch, nothing. Action is what determines the outcome. So what he was trying to say is that if you look at that, the components of who we are small things that we do every day. So who you are, Stephanie, is mainly a result of the small things that you do every single day. He writes, the small things no one sees leads to the big things everyone wants. Okay, that's a very important thing. It's the small moments of practice. It's the small moments of writing. It's the small moments of preparation. The small things no one sees leads to the big things that everyone wants. And it says they are easy to do, but they are easy to do and not to do. So it's easy because they're small. It's easy for you to say, today I won't do this. It's fine. It won't make much of an impact. But we don't understand that it's the cumulative impacts that matter the most. And they seem to be acceptable to dodge, and dodging them piles up. And also the small things that we do consistently. Doing small things is okay, but now doing them consistently is what creates magnification and amplification. So it's the things we eat consistently, it's the things we do consistently, it's the things we say consistently, it's the consistencies of our life that determine the direction. And he says remember that a wall is built brick by brick. Your habits will build optimism, but your habits will build optimism, but you have to overcome your opposition. That's one thing you have to do, internal or external. You will be discouraged by your daily habits, and obviously halfway is probably where you will stop. And one of the things we have to remember is that we have to remember that it is those tiny things that you do are sort of the little maize seeds that you plant every single day. So remember, it's the small things that no one sees that lead to the big things that everyone wants. So you will reap what you sow. Now I want to share an old video of Dave Ramsey. It's a favorite that I like to put out here for people to remember why we're talking about reaping and sowing. Stephanie's extremely important. And here he is where he's talking about cause and effect. It's a 1-minute clip. It's actually one of the most popular ones I like to share, but check this out.
That keep you in the gutter. Yes. But actual economic activity is around here for you to participate in and has cause and effect and get out of there. What you plant is what grows. If you plant nothing, the government's not going to come along and plant something. When it rains, you're going to have mud. And you can eat mud pies and make a mud hut But if you plant corn, you'll have corn. Voila, when it rains. And don't be shocked that corn grows if you plant corn. If you do rich people habits with money and have rich people mindsets with money, eventually you will be rich people. If you do poor people stuff with money and you're rich, eventually you will be poor people. Have you ever seen a trust fund baby do stupid stuff? Have you ever seen somebody win the lottery and lose everything? They do poor people stuff with their money, short-term thinking, and they get stupid and they lose their money. I've done both. I know how it feels.
So there's a very simple statement that I'd like to remember from that one, and I'd like everyone to always remember it. He said, if you do rich people things with money, you'll be rich people. If you do poor people things with money, you will be poor people. Today, Stephanie, I saw an article from Forbes, which wrote the Powerball, which is the lottery, the American jackpot lottery, will be $1.5 billion. So whoever wins the American lottery, the jackpot, stands the chance to win $1.5 billion. Okay. But I can guarantee you, Stephanie, that even after that person wins that $1.5 billion, in about 10 years' time, they will be bankrupt. Okay. The majority of lottery winners actually, you know that lottery winners go bankrupt 5 times faster than non-lottery winners, and 5 times more often, than non-lottery winners. Why is that, Stephanie? Because they are trying to reap where they did not sow. And the Bible is very strict. It says God will not be mocked. And the problem is that where people gain these big amounts of money, they just spend them into the ground. So people who win money tend to lose it more than people who earn money. That's actually a reality. People who win money or get these huge payments have a tendency to lose a lot of it. I've seen it with retirees who get huge cash payouts from their pension, and all they manage to do is finish it within a few months. I think, Stephanie, we all have an uncle or an aunt or somebody who got a huge retirement settlement, and then 5-6 years later they're in a worse condition than they were. I think we all have one of those, don't we? Yeah. Anyway, and I think in the comment section, if you do, please share if you do recall that. So now let's talk about reaping and sowing, because that's an extremely important concept, and not just a concept, but that is the truth. So if we go to the Bible, there are 2 points I wanted to just get out from here. Genesis 8:22 reads, as long as the earth endures, seed time and harvest, cold, heat, summer, winter, day and night will never cease. Seed time and harvest. So that is the first thing God says in this world. If you want something, you have to put something in. Okay, you will not get things you are not putting in. And Galatians issues a stern warning: do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked, for a man shall reap what he sows. Okay, you are contravening God's law when you are trying to get things you did not plant. Okay, that is where the problem comes, and something later on will come and whip your head horribly, whether it's your spending habits that will finish the money you're trying to reap that you did not sow, whether it's the court system that will get you for stealing, whether it's inflation that will rip it apart because it's mostly in cash and it's not in actual assets that you've actually built. Somewhere along the lines, you will reap what you sow, and deservedly so. There are 4 laws to reaping and sowing that have been put down. 1, you reap what you sow. 2, you reap consistently what you sow consistently. 3, you reap after you sow. And 4, you reap more than you sow. And let's break these down so that our people can understand and what they mean with financial habits. Let's talk about the consistency one. Number 1 is that there's an old saying that says, successful people do consistently what others do occasionally. Write that one down, people. That actually puts straight in your mind. And occasional people assume consistent people are lucky. Consistency is one of the most important factors because it allows compounding. 40% of your life, Stephanie, 40% of the things you do every single day, Stephanie, are not a result of decisions, but they're a result of automated habits. And why are automated habits so important? Because they're the things that you do consistently, and they have a tendency to compound on each other and direct your life. So your 60% of decisions will not overpower your 40% of habits, because your 60% of decisions are erratic. Your 40% of habits are consistent. So consistent overpowers erratic. Okay, the things you do every single day will determine where you are going. The things you do consistently will determine the direction that you are pulling within, because your decisions will pull in this direction, and this direction, and this direction, and mostly will stay neutral, but your habits will push in one singular direction. So in financial markets, we have something called, we have terminology called tailwinds, and we have a terminology called headwinds. Now, a tailwind is a positive environmental factor that helps support and accelerate growth of a person, while a headwind is a negative environmental factor that resists and suppresses and slows down a person. So I want you to think about this very carefully, because yes, there is an element of luck in most successful people, but there's something about their consistency that actually helps propel their luck. So a tailwind, whether it's economic growth, whether it's a spurring cycle, the stock market booms, all sorts of things. Many people chalk success and failure up to tailwinds and headwinds. But what they often forget, Stephanie, is that a plane actually has to be in flight for the wind to actually work. So the funny thing about tailwinds and headwinds is that when a tailwind, something positive that helps you comes in, it actually amplifies things that are already in motion. And headwinds have less of an effect on things that are already in motion. So, Stephanie, if you are running at full speed and a huge gust of wind blows against you, if you're standing still, you're most likely to get blown back. But if you're running at full speed, you're actually more likely to resist that, because you're going into it with some actual force. So momentum, which is built by consistent action, actually helps tailwinds, which are positive impacts, amplify your results, and it helps resist headwinds. So there's actually some of the things you need to be doing. So if you're already building wealth, so let's say inflation is picking up. If you're not building any wealth, inflation will rip through you horribly. But if you have wealth building assets already in motion, inflation is less likely to have an impact on you as somebody else who's facing it. If you have no assets, Stephanie, economic growth will have minimal impact on you. But if you've built a store of assets, your assets will accelerate with economic growth, and therefore your wealth will grow faster. So without actual activity happening in the market, and no consistent actions, what's going to happen to you is that the headwinds will push you back harder, and the tailwinds will do nothing for you. So they are tailwinds and headwinds. They are environmental factors, but those environmental factors impact people in motion differently. I always say this, Stephanie, the harder you work, the luckier you seem to get. And that's the truth, because the more prepared you are for opportunities, the more you save, the more when investment opportunities arrive, you can invest in them. But if you've got no savings, Stephanie, to invest in new investment opportunities, guess what's going to happen? You'll invest nothing. Guess what's going to happen? You'll get nothing. Guess what's going to happen? You will be nothing. Okay, that is the reality. So you actually have to start doing things consistently, so that when the moments come that amplify results, you are supported. And the moments come that negate results, you, Stephanie, have got a defense against them. And that is positive actions moving in the right direction. So that is what consistency plays out to. The second law of reaping and sowing is that you reap what you sow. Stephanie, let me ask a simple question. If you plant maize, what will come out?
Maize.
Will
Maize,
soya come out?
definitely. No,
Will wheat come out?
no,
Have you ever heard of a farmer who plants apples and gets bananas?
no.
Exactly. You reap what you sow. Okay? So as he said, if you do poor people things with money, you will be poor people. If you do rich people things with money, you will be rich people. And I've showed you people the habits of the millionaires. They live on less than they make. They avoid credit. They save consistently. They work very hard. They invest in professional development. These are the things they do. So if you say, oh, it doesn't matter what they do, I'm just going to do my own thing and I'm going to get rich. Great. Let's see where that gets you. Most likely, you're going to find yourself in the opposite direction. You're going to be complaining. So the important thing is never, we fuss a lot, Stephanie, about what rich people have, but never do we ask the question, what do these people do to make this money? We
What is
never
it?
ask people, yeah, what did you do? What have you been doing to build this wealth? And we are more interested in what they have and less interested in what they do. More people know about what car you own than what you actually do to own that car and to put fuel in that car. And that is poverty mentality. So if you see a rich person and you are talking more about what they have than what they do, that is poor people thinking. That's the reality. That is a poverty mindset. And I have to differentiate people. Some people can be broke. You can be broke. That's just the state of money you have. Poor, Stephanie, is the way you think about money. It's actually a mentality. So lots of people in this world who are broke, but they're not poor. But there are lots of people who even have money, Stephanie, and they are poor because their mentality on how they think about money will affect the way they eventually end up. So you want to start making sure that you are not doing such things. Now, where does this law of input-output come from? Well, it actually is a biblical principle for me. Remember that as the floods receded and God reestablished his covenant with humanity in Genesis 8:20-22, God puts in the world 3 laws. He says, I will never curse the ground that man walks on, although man's imagination is evil from his youth, nor will I destroy every living thing. However, so God promises, I'm not going to destroy the world, but he does say, you guys are really silly. So I'm going to have to put some fail safes into this world. And what he says is 1, seed time and harvest. Cold and hot, winter, summer, day and night will not cease. So he puts some fail safes into the world to control human behavior so that he doesn't have to strike us again. God promises that he'll never destroy the world, but acknowledges the evil nature of man. So therefore places 3 laws which will allow which allow man's own evil behavior to be his own undoing. So basically, Stephanie, if you do silly things with money, silly things will happen to you. That's the way God has coded the earth. If you plant stupidity, stupid things will happen to you. If you plant mess ups will happen to you. So the way this is happening is that it's enshrines into the earth that what you are planting in the ground will eventually grow into the worst thing you ever thought. Now, a lot of people don't want to feel that. So God puts into the earth 3 important laws that govern human existence. Sorry, I think we kind of messed this one up. But he puts into place 3 important laws. 1, the first one he says is the law of sowing and reaping. Every outcome is a result of a preceding action. Every action is a succeeding outcome. Every action has a succeeding outcome. Should man plant cursed behavior, cursed outcomes will follow. You cannot escape the harvest of the seed, for this is now the first law of the post-Noah world. And I'll go into the second law here, but the first law is what you put into the ground is what you will chew on. Okay, you will not eat what you have not put into the ground and waited for it to grow. You farm your own outcomes. The second one is the law of cyclicality, which basically means summer, winter, hot, and cold. And this promises that life will have variations and seasonalities. Everything in this world operates in cycles, be it agriculture, weather, business, economies, any systems. Each has got stages, each has got cycles. You cannot skip it. These require a wise approach to life to make sure that you understand the risks of how things can deviate from what you expect. Okay, so there will be hot days, there will be cold days, there will be summer, there will be winter. There are different seasons, there are different stages. So God wants you to anticipate. So it's very important for you to think about this. You have to anticipate. Even when you're making financial and business decisions, businesses operate in cycles. Investments operate in cycles. These things have got cyclicalities to them. So there will always be economic boom cycles. The boom cycle will end and a bust cycle will come. Some years the GDP will be high, some years the GDP will be low. So there will be variations in seasons, but still, Stephanie, sowing and reaping is still important. And the third law is that of forward motion. Basically, in Genesis 1, God creates day and night, he creates time. And this means that time will always pass. So whether you act, Stephanie, or don't act, today will pass. Okay, whether you make the right decision or don't, the day will pass. Okay, and the opportunity to plant the seed for today will have been gone. So basically, God's new covenant basically says that he will not punish and our innate stupidity and evil. But should we manifest our stupidity and evil, he has programmed the world to exact the correct punishment on you. Should you spend all your money and go into debt, then financial stress will find you. Okay? This allows for what we call self-governance and self-correction in the world, and even with a sinful and widely emotional, unpredictable man. So basically, law 2 and 3, where he talks about there'll be hot and cold, summer, winter, day and night, those are things that are out of your control. But guess what you can control, Stephanie? Guess what you have the power to control? Sowing and reaping. Okay? So as you learn, you can observe cyclicalities of life. You can observe when do economic booms occur and all these things. People can say, the economy is tough, but you can still sell, Stephanie. You can still build a client book. You can still invest in your assets. You can still build a portfolio. No matter what the seasons you are facing, you can still do whatever is the right thing. It's you opt to. Now, everyone will say, yeah, but that's not easy. Where, Stephanie? Where in all of this have we said sowing is easy? Show me where I've said this. It's not. And if your whole life is built on what's easy, then prepare for a whole lot of pain in life. Because if you're looking for easy up front, pain will follow you greatly up front. The other thing I want you, so basically I will say this, you do not reap what you desire, you reap what you sow. Please, for anyone, write that one down. You do not reap what you desire, you reap what you sow. So no matter how much you wish and want, it is enshrined into the world that the harvest is determined by the planted crop. So if you're not planting a seed into the action you want, you will sow squat. Okay? Zip, zilch, zero, nothing. Amplification, Stephanie, is the third law of that, which means that you reap more than you sow. So, Stephanie, if you plant one seed of maize, will one seed of maize come out? No, a whole cob with many potential seeds come out. Okay? And that's what happens with a lot of things. The law of multiplication is that if you consistently plant things, there is a repeated action adding on each other. So there's a compounding effect. Today's repeated action makes tomorrow's action easier. Today's repeated action feeds into tomorrow's action. So time plus repetition equals magnification. And I want you to also remember this is what we call the pain-pleasure trade-off. Stephanie, pain is the seed of pleasure. Pleasure is the seed of pain. Please always remember this. Okay, pain is the seed of pleasure. Pleasure is the seed of pain. So if you want pleasure up front, you will find great pain later in the future. If you are willing to take pain up front, save and invest. If you're willing to sacrifice and run your business, if you're willing to make sacrifices and take the pain up front, you tend to reap greater pleasure in the future. Okay? This is the problem that a lot of people don't want to understand. So if you just want to spend everything, borrow everything, and dance today and yip-de-doo, whoop-de-hoo today, then tomorrow it will be wild for you. Okay? And there's nothing we can do for you. So amplify. The problem is tomorrow's pain is greatly amplified. Okay? So if you take today's pleasure, tomorrow's pain is amplified. So, but if you let it be an outcome of a process, it's much more sustainable. And finally, Stephanie, delayed action. Basically, the Bible does say there will be seed time and harvest, meaning these two things happened differently and they happen in sequence. First, a seed is planted, then a harvest comes. So you reap after you sow. So we wrongly conclude that small actions don't matter. We try to quit. And most people don't think about what we call the 212-degree principle. Water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit, but you have to get to 211 degrees before that so that you can get to the boiling point of water. So you actually have to get to that boiling point. Now, though it took every cumulative degree of heat to get there. There's an old saying by the rapper Mos Def, and he says this: the secret to the straw that broke the camel's back is the million and other straws underneath it. If you put a singular straw on a camel's back, nothing, but you have to pile up a lot of single straws for that final straw to break the camel's back. So good or bad habits happen because they are consistent and they are delayed effects. So the 4 laws of reaping and sowing is 1, and this is the same as saving and investing, is 1, you reap what you sow. 2, you reap consistently what you sow consistently. If you try and if you're getting the same results, perhaps look at what you're planting in your life. Maybe that's something you want to start looking at. 3, you reap more than you sow. Okay? Whatever you put in the ground consistently, you will get a lot more of it coming out on the other side. And 4, you reap after you sow. If you're trying to reap the rewards of something up front, or Godspeed, or the best, what's going to happen to you is you're going to get annihilated later. If you follow the 4 laws of reaping and sowing, and you actually apply that to your financial decision making and your business decision making and your career decision making, you end up realizing that is where fruitfulness comes from. It's understanding the 4 laws of reaping and sowing. And that's why, Stephanie, even people who do not believe in God receive his blessings, because as much as they may not believe in him and respect him, they do respect that law. I've seen a lot of our fellow Christians trying to circumvent reaping and sowing. The only seed they want to sow is when someone says, do it there, and they can get something instantly. But if you are patient enough, the way a farmer has got, and probably a seasoned farmer has done it, if you can apply that with life, you will reap a much better harvest in life. You are likely to do so if you follow that law, because that is a universal principle of the earth. And Stephanie, that is the power to change. Learning to train yourself, not to try. Learning to rely on habits, not hope. So you train so that you can plant habits, and you make sure those habits are a part of your identity, so that you plant those habits into the soil of your life, so that you can reap the life you want. And you have to be patient. And I leave it there, Stephanie.
Thank you very much, Munyumba. This has been very educational. I hope to the listeners and those that were watching on Facebook, they picked up 2 or 3 points, and obviously not just to listen to, but also to get to practice. Until tomorrow again, Munyumba, it's bye for now and have a good day.